Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Prime Time News on TV1. I'm Charlene Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Naveksha Gunasekara. We start off by taking a look at your headlines.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Harupena discounts of up to 30% off on frames and sunglasses from Vikramarchi Opticians.
Heavy rains bring floods to many areas. Landslide warnings are in effect for 10 districts. State sector employees on sick leave demanding 20,000 rupees salary increment from January. Postal workers on strike till midnight. Corrupt deals within the power sector, reveals Anura. Kanchana challenges Anura to an open dialogue. Do not hand over valuable land in Trincomalee to India under the guise of developing it. Civil organizations raise objections. Search operations continue to locate 9 escapees of the Kandakadua Rehabilitation Center. Harin dissolves Roshan's interim committee.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Harupena discounts of up to 30% off on frames and sunglasses from Vikramarchi Opticians.
Sri Lanka's Met Department said that showers or thunder showers will occur in the Sabaragamu and western provinces and in Kandy, Nuwara Eliya, Galle and Mathura districts.
This is the 10th milepost area along the Rakwana-Deniaya main road in the Sabaragamu province. Following a torrential downpour, the entire road turned into a body of water. Newsfirst correspondent said that the road is under renovation during these days. A heavy machine that was moved for the renovation work had toppled over and the driver also sustained injuries. The water levels of the Nilbala River exceeded spill level following a heavy downpour experienced since last night, and this resulted in many low-lying lands and roads in Akurasa being inundated. Many roads and low-lying lands in Lower Lelvala in Vanduramba Galle were also flooded. In addition, vehicular movement along the Vanduramba-Kottava road was disrupted due to earth slips and uprooted trees. The Sungavila road leading to the Somavatiya sacred grounds was flooded due to the rising water levels of the Mahavali river after catchment areas experienced heavy rainfall. Moreover, landslide warnings were issued for multiple localities in the districts of Badulla, Hambantota, Kalutara, Kandy, Galle, Kurunagala, Mathale, Mathura, Nuwara Eliya and Ratnapura.
The collective of state and provincial state services trade unions went on a token strike and also engaged in protests across several locations. Their primary demand was a monthly salary increase of 20,000 rupees from January 2024. The main protest took place opposite Setsiripaya in Battaramulla.
The collective of state and provincial state services trade unions organized a protest in Battaramulla, and even before they arrived, the Sri Lankan authorities had deployed water cannons, trucks and a riot police to the site. The protesters stressed that their monthly salaries need to be increased compared to the rising cost of living.
The Ranil Rajapaksa government is trying to get the oppressive budget that imposes more taxes on the people passed in Parliament tomorrow. We demand that a proper salary increase be awarded to the public sector, semi-government sector, private sector, estate sector, pensioners and others so that they can survive. Since we are finding it difficult to survive, we are demanding a salary increase of 20,000 rupees. However, the government has announced a 10,000 salary hike that will come into effect in April. VAT is at 18%. With effect from January. All the people will fall from the frying pan to the stove because of this VAT. An additional 62 rupees will have to be paid for petroleum from January. At the same time, an additional 59 rupees will have to be paid for diesel. The price of coconut oil will also increase. The price of 97 goods and services will increase in January. We do not see a positive sign for the future. We are ready to stand against this oppressive government that continues to burden the people.
A protest took place in Anuradhapura in line with the protest organised by the collective of state and provincial state services trade unions.
We engaged in a struggle for our salaries because it was difficult to survive. Therefore, we want a salary hike of 20,000 rupees. We cannot wait in hunger until April. Therefore, add the 10,000 rupee salary hike to the January salary.
The Kurunegala district collective of state and provincial state services trade unions also protested.
This is only a one-day strike. If our demands are not heard, all services will join for a continuous strike. We are issuing a warning to the government. Do not force the state sector employees to go on strike.
More protests took place in other areas. Saman Ratnapriya, Director General of Trade Unions, to the President in a letter addressed to the secretaries of several ministries, had sought the number of personnel from the respective ministries who are engaged in the trade union action. He sought for the information within 2 hours of dispatching the letter. The letters were sent to the secretaries of the Ministry of Public Administration, Education, Transport, Health, Power and Energy, Labour and Foreign Employment and Ports. Speaking to Newsfirst, Saman Ratnapriya confirmed that such an inquiry was made as a part of President's office from several key ministries. He said that based on the responses given by the ministries, the trade union action was a failure.
The token strike by postal workers will continue until midnight. On Sunday evening, postal workers decided to engage in a token strike against the sale of postal department property, including the Nuwara and Kandy post offices, to overseas firms. In addition, they also demand a salary hike of 20,000 rupees from January next year.
We will end our strike at midnight. During the period of the strike, the administration or the political authority did not engage in any form of dialogue with the trade unions.
The 48-hour postal strike saw the closure of all post offices in Kandy and its suburbs. In addition, the main post offices in Kurunegala, Kochikade, Anuradhapura and Badula did not operate. The Joint Postal Trade Union Alliance said that over 1 million letters were piled up at the Central Mail Exchange and other post offices across the island due to the trade union action.
Leader of the Jatika Janabala Vegaya, Anurakumara Dissanayake, revealed in Parliament that attempts are being made to implement a solar power project in the Ponkari Veva in Kilinochi without a competitive tender process. He claimed that the project is an attempt to purchase electricity at excessive rates.
Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Vijayasekara said cabinet approval was granted yesterday to enter into a power purchase agreement with the United Solar Group of Australia to invest in a 700 megawatt solar power project with 1,500 megawatt hours of battery energy storage system. He said that the solar power project will be installed on the surface of the Punakari tank in the Kilinochi district with a foreign direct investment of 1,727 million US dollars.
I want to ask this because you are here. Did the cabinet receive this cabinet paper? We hope to install a power station of 700 megawatts at the Punakari River. After they generate power, we need to sign a power purchasing agreement for us to obtain power. What is the rate at which we will sign the agreement for? $0.15? One unit will be around 50 rupees. Tell me if it is less. We are trying to sign an agreement for 9 years. The president can explain further. The Punakari project will rebuild the river and we will receive 20,000 acres for cultivation again. And this was a project by the Australian company United Solar. Additionally, the highest battery storage in Asia will be in Sri Lanka for the first time. Most CEB engineers oppose this. If what we discussed yesterday is on the papers, it came from within the Cabinet of Ministers. They are demanding the least cost and our only option is coal or oil. Commissions can be pocketed when you purchase coal and oil. You cannot get commissions for solar and wind power. I will inform the minister of the total amount and he will explain. He proposed this to us. Many companies asked for 30 to 40 years. Our laws only allow 20 years and it needs to be amended to 40 years. Who pocketed commissions? Look into the investigation report regarding the coal scam. It has the details of the minister who was behind it and all those connected. We shout at the ministers, but we know that there are several officials who do it despite who the minister is. While the crab is walking sideways, he can't ask the others to walk straight. They are all going sideways, starting from the president. I will reveal details about all of the other deals as well. The crab and his disciples, Sagala Ratnayaka, are all going sideways. They are coming here to talk about oil. What is Sagala Ratnayaka doing? Will any one of you concede that we should purchase a unit of solar power for 50 rupees? The average citizen thinks that if power is generated using solar or wind energy, they will be able to get electricity for a cheaper price. But you approved a cabinet paper yesterday to purchase a unit of electricity at 50 rupees. I am not for coal. But today the cost of electricity generated using coal is 22 rupees. If that is the case, then how can solar energy cost 50 rupees a unit? Are the engineers the ones who pocket the commissions? It is not the engineers who pocket the commissions. Who is behind this? Tenders are not called for any one of these projects. These are long-term projects. At least announce that there is a project like this and call tenders for it. Why are you bringing it to the cabinet through the back door and approving it? Therefore, they are further exacerbating the power crisis in the country through these projects. They are going to give 500 megawatts in Punarin to Adani. What's the price on the agreement? As far as I know, it's $7.15. But they get it for $3.5 in India. They have to bid in India and get it for that price, while in Sri Lanka they get it through the back door. Is this country your ancestral property? Did he say that I'm speaking for the coal dealers? Did he say that I'm speaking for those who supply diesel? It was the members of his cabinet who pocketed commissions when dealing in coal and diesel. He knows that. What does he want? He wants their support for the next election. How does he get their support from Madhura? He does not care about what happens to the country, what happens to fuel. There are companies involved in the solar power industry. Why won't you call an open tender for all of them? Ask them if they have the technology, and if they do, invite them to come. Why are you discussing these behind closed doors? The country fell into this state because of tenders being awarded to friends and allies without calling for tenders. The first lie is that there was no procurement process. Secondly, he said we are trying to purchase solar power for 50 rupees. This will be the world's largest battery energized storage system run only with solar energy. He has misunderstood that only the solar panels will be 49 rupees. We will store the solar power to be added to the national grid to be used when the need arises. The electricity that was purchased for 60 to 63 rupees is now being reduced to 48 and 49 rupees. LNG is also 52 to 53 rupees. He has misunderstood that this is only for solar panels. We are purchasing the solar power for around 25 rupees. The Punakari river cannot be used for farming today because of its high salinity levels. As the river will be renovated under this project, it will allow another 20,000 acres to be cultivated as well. They can say anything in Parliament. I challenge him to seek legal action if the President, myself or any other minister faces any allegation with regards to coal or oil scams over the past 18 months. If he has information, I will join him for an open dialogue. No cases are filed. He also named Sagala Ratnayaka, who is the President's Chief of Staff. No one has influenced me or intervened in this ministry.
විවාදයකට එතුමත් එක්ක. එම ෆයිල් වලින් ගිහිලා නඩු දාපු ෆයිල් එකක් නැහනේ. එතුමා තව නමකුත් අදලා ගත්ත සාගල් රත්නායක කියලා. සාගල් රත්නායක මැතිතුමා කියන්නේ ජනාධිපති කාර්ය මණ්ඩල ප්‍රධානියා. මේ අමාත්‍යංශයට අදාළව වෙනත් කවුරුවත් මට බලපෑම් කරන්න එන්නෙත් නැහැ. වෙනත් කවුරුවත් මැදිහත් වීම කරන්න එන්නෙත් නැහැ. විදුලි බල පනතේ 43 වෙනි වගන්තිය තියෙනවා ජනන සැලැස්මට පරිබාහිර ව්‍යාපෘති.
The 43rd clause of the Electricity Act states that projects outside of the long-term power generation plan cannot be approved. But today they have created a background in which anyone can establish a power station as they wish as a renewable energy project. This is approved by Kusum Shanti, Dr. Vijayakon, Vajra Priyanta and 2 others. When it gets delayed, the Secretary, Chairman and General Manager of the CEB are called to the Presidential Secretariat, and after they are scolded, the project was approved for the Australian company called United Solar. Bribery Commission officials should look into this project. When the generation plan is not there, the subject minister and members of the Presidential Secretariat can allocate projects as they wish.
ඇයි මේම වෙන්නේ? ජනන සැලසුම නැති වුණායින් පස්සේ Tamanට කැමති තැන් වලට මේක බෙදන්න පුළුවන්. ඇමතිට මේ ජනාධිපති ලේකම් කාර්යාලේ ඉන්න කට්ටියට.
The People's Struggle Movement distributed handbills in Kantale to highlight the Indian influence on the Trincomalee Development Program. This comes against a backdrop where Sri Lanka is discussing with Australia over the establishment of a solar power project in Kilinochchi.
The People's Struggle Movement distributed handbills and collected signatures to a protest placard.
ඔබ දන්නවා ගිය අවුරුද්දේ දැවැන්ත ආර්ථික අර්බුදයක් මේ රටට ආව වෙලාවේදී ඉන්දියානු රජයේ මැදිහත් වෙලා ලංකාවට ණය මුදලක් ලෙස ඩොලර් බිලියන.
We know that when we experienced the economic crisis in the past year, the Indian government provided us with a loan of $3.9 billion. Now the government is planning to sell parts of Sri Lanka to India as payment for their loan. The government continues to sell resources. The seriousness of this situation is that although 620 square miles from the Trincomalee town is supposed to be sold, people who live within 2-kilometer radius from the Trincomalee clock tower are being evacuated. They are evacuating fishing villages. In the same way, they are getting rid of hospitals, the electricity board, the post office, the universities and the prison. The government is increasing VAT and the cost of essential goods during a time in which people cannot afford to eat, afford to send their children to school and cannot afford to live. They have made Sri Lanka a puppet that is dancing to India's tunes.
බදුබර වැඩි කරලා රාජ්‍ය ආයතන විකුණලා තඩි පොල්ලකින් ගහනවා ඉන්දියාවට ඕන විදිහට ලංකාව නටවන්න පුළුවන් රූකඩයක් කරන පොල්ලෙන් ජනතාව ගොළුවට ගහලා තියෙන්නේ.
A protest took place in Kantale under the theme of defeating the Trincomalee Indian Economic Zone, which evicts the people from their villages.
Civil activists in Trincomalee commented on the matter.
Trincomalee is a place where the hungry can satisfy their hunger. The government, who is unable to develop Trincomalee, is now planning to hand it over to India. What is the reason for this? How is India going to develop Trincomalee? If they are going to demolish 3,500 houses in the area, where are the residents of these houses going to stay? This is something that everyone should think about. Today we will only lose 3,500 houses, but then we will lose 6,000 and eventually we will lose the entire country. We should not let this happen. What are they going to do after selling it to India? We must unite and come together to protect our country.
These were the opinions expressed at a press conference convened in the Kinya area.
We are told that the coastal areas of the country are going to be handed over to India. This can gravely affect the fishermen in the area. area. The Tamil and Muslim communities of the district can be subjected to suffering, as this country has become an item that is being sold to various countries. Instead of selling the country, the politicians and officials must work towards preserving the assets of the country. Now that we are in debt to many countries, we are forced to sell parts of our country in order to pay them back. Therefore, they are trying to sell Trincomalee for that purpose. We know that they are planning to give it to the Indian government. Because of these decisions, the resources of our district are being robbed. We are losing our job opportunities. The citizens' livelihood must be prioritized when implementing these projects in the future.
The 8th South China Sea Buddhist Roundtable, organized to mark the 10th anniversary of China's introduction of the Belt and Road Initiative, got underway at the BMICH.
The 2023 Colombo Forum of the 8th South China Sea Buddhism Roundtable is themed Walking Together in Harmony and Gathering the Wisdom of the Silk Road. The forum is presided over by Venerable Master Yin Shun, a highly esteemed and senior monk in China. The event is hosted by Gangaramya Temple in Colombo. The South China Sea Buddhism Roundtable also saw the participation of former Presidents Mahinda Rajapaksa, Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Maithripala Sirisena.
Today, the entire world marked by power struggles, manipulation of truth, and the rise of negativity. The core principles of ahimsa, kindness and compassion are often misunderstood as weakness. Present day, we face a multitude of challenges: economic crisis, social inequalities, environmental threats and conflicts. The Lord Buddha taught us that non-violence is the only way to achieve peace. In today's complex geopolitical issues, a rational argument would be to focus on defending sovereignty and imposing military power, but it creates more and more problems. Dialogue and understanding are the sets of true victory. Let us twist to the ancient Silk Road, a vibrant tapestry woven from trade, cooperation, and prosperity. This remarkable network, extending 4,000 miles across diverse landscapes, serves as testament to the power of collective action, reminding us that working together benefits all. I firmly believe that the China's Belt and Road Initiative presents promising opportunities for collaborations extending beyond the traditional Silk Road to usher in the era of peace and prosperity of all.
A series of events from the 11th to the 14th of December in Colombo will reinforce bonds among Buddhist communities, addressing topics such as peace and development, cultural exchanges, education, young talent and charitable initiatives. Over 400 delegates representing 32 countries will participate in the discourse, enhancing collaboration and promoting the tourism sector.
Tharu Painted discounts. Enjoy up to 30% off on frames and sunglasses this Christmas with Vikramarachi Opticians.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe took part in the Parliament session where the expenditure heads of the Ministries of Investment Promotion and Technology were debated. The President elaborated on the new tax amendments and the energy sector reforms.
We have decided as a policy to increase the VAT up to 18%. Then it must apply to all sectors. You can't exempt some sectors and others. In 2015 there was a big debate as to whether you need foreign personnel, and this was the biggest debate, not how we increase it. And finally there were no foreign personnel. Half the people who shouted are now leaving the country. We are having a serious dearth of people. So what we are doing now is to ask if any company wants people from abroad, we'll allow it. We are going to train more people, but that will not, in fact, resolve the issue of trained people. Experienced people have gone out. So if a company wants a foreign personnel, we'll let them come in. Whatever we have collected out of by increasing to 18%, will come back to the sector.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe also spoke on Sri Lanka's energy sector potential.
We have to go in for green hydrogen and green ammonia, which will also help Colombo as a port, because green hydrogen will be used by the shipping industry. So we have this tremendous potential which we have to use, on which we have to do research and be ahead. I have already spoken with Germany on helping us on green technology. Similarly with France, as to how they have established green industries. We are also having Australian private sector advising us. Australia wants to be a green hydrogen superpower. So we are working with them. We have the potential to export. India can make more than us, but India can never export. It's needed locally. China can make more than us. They need it locally. But we are one of the countries that can export renewable energy.
Leader of the opposition, Sajith Premadasa, said in Parliament that after the proposal to increase VAT was passed, the ruling party MPs held a party at Temple Trees.
තමන්ගේ බිරිඳගේ මරණය ගෙදර තියෙද්දි එළිය බූරෝ ගහලා එකතු කරගත්ත තෝම් වෙනුත් අසිප්පි බොන බේබද්දෙක් වගේ මේ ආණ්ඩුවත් අහිංසක මිනිසුන්ට වැඩබද්ද 118ක් කරලා මේ දූෂිත නාස්තිකාර ආණ්ඩුව නඩත්තු කරනවා. වැට් එක 115 ඉඳලා 118 දක්වා
An 18% VAT was imposed on the people to maintain this corrupt and wasteful government. When the proposal to increase VAT from 15% to 18% was approved, they clapped and cheered. The people who used to have 3 meals per day now have no choice but to consume only one. Once the VAT was increased, and they celebrated and said the time of the opposition and the opposition leader has come to an end. Thereafter, the Prime Minister organised a party at the Temple Trees last evening, and the President and former President attended to it. All the ministers were also there. This party was to celebrate the VAT increase from 15% to 18% with effect from January. The MPs who claimed to be against the VAT increase but did not attend the Parliament session also celebrated the VAT hike at this party. At least now, if you have any sort of compassion within you, it is not too late to reverse the VAT increase.
මේ වැට් එක වැඩි කරපු එක ආපහු හරවගන්න.
The Samagi Jana Balawege also expressed views regarding the matter at a press conference held today.
ඡන්ද 100ක් හම්බෙන්න මතක තියාගන්න. දැන් ආණ්ඩුවට මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ?
The government doesn't have the 113 majority in parliament now. They said the president's shoes are worn out after licking the boots of the president. So I don't know if they will do the same and support him again. But for now, the government doesn't have a 113 majority. I think that the government MPs will receive a lot of privileges tomorrow. If the government gets 120 votes tomorrow, carefully observe who the 20 MPs are. That is a group that gained benefits through their vote. Do you think the son was against this? No, the son was the mastermind behind the VAT. He remained outside and watched the entertainment. He will say it is the others who voted for the VAT and ruined the people. The mastermind had also sent his father for this.
පුතා බලාගෙන ඉන්නවා එළියේ ඉඳගෙන පොඩි චූන් එකක් අරගෙන මම නන්නේ අරුන් ටික තමයි උන් තමයි මේ වැට් එක ගහලා මිනිසුන් නැති කරේ ලැජ්ජයිනේ මහා මොලකරු ලැජ්ජ නැතුව තාත්තවත් එවලනේ ඇතුළට.
Sri Lanka's Cabinet of Ministers has given the approval for the introduction of legal provisions to retain under house arrest as to a remedy to remanding.
The Cabinet of Ministers granted approval to instruct the legal draftsman to prepare a draft bill to introduce legal provisions to keep the suspects and offenders of cases under house arrest instead of them being imprisoned or remanded as a remedy to the congestion issue in prisons. The resolution was furnished by the Minister of Justice, Prison Activities and Constitutional Reforms.
Rehabilitation Commissioner General retired Major General Darshan Hettiarachchi confirmed that 129 inmates who escaped from the Velikanda Kandakadua Treatment and Rehabilitation Centre have been taken into police custody.
These inmates were produced before the Polonnaruwa Magistrates Court and 107 of them were remanded until the 22nd of this month. Operations are ongoing to arrest 9 other inmates.
Operations to arrest the inmates who escaped from the Kandakad Rehabilitation Centre were launched last evening.
This is a special announcement from the Sri Lanka police. We know that escapees from the rehabilitation centre have travelled across the Somawathiya Forest Reserve and are headed this way through these forests. The Sri Lanka police are waiting to welcome the escapees from the rehabilitation centre. You will not be harmed in any way. The senior superintendent of police and other officers present here will bear responsibility for that. Therefore, come here, you will not be harmed. We are hoping to provide you with food. We know that you are hungry. We know that you need water. We have provided all of those facilities here. A few of you can come here and see.
The escapees later surrendered to police at the Periyaru Bridge.
මේ කොලාල උනේ මේ සේරල මේ අත තිබ්බ නිසා තමයි මේක උනේ. නැත්නම් සේරලත් එක්ක හොඳින් තමයි හිටියේ. සේරල ඔක්කොම මේ අපේ ජෝගියට අරන් තියෙන සේර එම සේරල මේම තමයි සේර. මේ සේරල මේ කන්න ගියත් බොන්න ගියත් ගහන එක තේමනේ සේර ගහන්න එක්ක කියලා පැත්තට ගියා අරන් ගිහලා ගහ. අර රොමිදා පාරත් මේ වගේ වෙලා තමයි අපේම සහෝදරයෙකු මැරුවේ.
The 75th birth anniversary commemoration of late MHM Ashraf President's Council took place in Colombo.
The 75th birth anniversary commemoration of the late MHM Ashraf PC, the founder leader of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress and the National Unity Alliance, took place in Colombo. The event was graced by former Minister Ferial Ashraf, the wife of the late MHM Ashraf PC, Aman Ashraf, son of the late MHM Ashraf PC, former President Chandrika Bandaranayake Kumaratunga, former President Maithripala Sirisena, former Chairman of the Election Commission Mahinda Deshapriya, and leader of the National Unity Alliance, Azad Sali.
Mr. Ashraf is a visionary. He was a cabinet minister during the time of Mrs. Chandrika Bandaranayake Kumaratunga. Though it was a very short period, I always said that that was one leader who fulfilled the aspirations of the Muslim community in particular. He fought for what was right. He always stood for what he said. While thinking of the man and the services that he had done compared to other leaders in this community, I always felt and I always said that Ashraf was exemplary, because the last stages he knew his death. That is why he had the program at BMICH. He wrote a book. When I got the National Unity Alliance, the former election commission is also here. He gave me a lot of trouble for registering that. He said, you have nothing to do with NUA. I said, NUA, I have nothing to do. But that's a party that I want to take forward the good work that Minister Ashraf did.
What is unknown by most is that he was, to a great extent, an individual who was misunderstood by society. He was a person who strived with every ounce of his being to give a voice to the Muslims of Sri Lanka, irrespective of which ethnic denomination they represented. But in doing so, he was misunderstood as being a politician with selfish interests. He committed his life towards a united Sri Lanka with justice and liberty for all Sri Lankans. But again, he was misunderstood to be either a separatist or an extremist. But these hurdles, as it were, did not deter him from his cause. He was an individual who was committed and moved with frightening tenacity. But his greatest attribute, I would imagine, was his ability to build bridges.
Former President Chandrika Bandaranayake Kumaratunga also spoke at the event.
Ashraf's commitment to national unity and reconciliation among all Sri Lankan citizens was truly amazing. He was utterly and totally committed to the upliftment of his people, and he always believed that to share with everyone was not to be less, but to be more of a human being. He refused to see our nation divided into various parts and to see some communities as them and his community as us. To him, we were all us. I still entertain doubts about the manner of the crash of his helicopter. Was it an accident, or was it engineered by the enemies of peace for which Ashraf fought all his life? It is still a question which is unanswered.
MHM Ashraf and 14 others were killed when a Sri Lanka Air Force helicopter crashed near Aranayaka in 2000.
Mama Austin, an autobiography of former senior government official Austin Fernando, was launched in Colombo yesterday.
Former Secretary to the President Austin Fernando launched his autobiography Mama Austin in Colombo yesterday. Austin Fernando served as Secretary to President Maithripala Sirisena from 2017 to 2018. The book incorporates his autobiography of a 57-year-long service in the state as well as elsewhere. The book launch was held at the BMICH. Former President Maithripala Sirisena, former President Chandrika Bandaranayake Kumaratunga, former Speaker Karu Jayasuriya, Chief Justice Jayantha Jayasuriya, Emeritus Professor J.B. Dissanayake and many others attended the event.
The inaugural RIT Alus oration was held at the D.S. Senanayake College premises in Colombo.
The inaugural RIT Alus oration was delivered by First President of the D.S. Senanayake College Old Boys Association, Ranjan Pereira, on the topic, the creator who built DS within a very short period and how he influenced the lives of Senanayakeyans on country before self.
As we remember RIT Alus, sir, recognized as one of the best educationists that Sri Lanka has produced, let us continue to lead with vision, determination and a strong commitment of excellence. Let's bear in mind that the impact of true leadership extends beyond the present, shaping the future of the younger generations. මාස 3යි දවස් 12ක් ඇතුළතදී මේ ඉස්කෝලේ ලැබලා තියෙන ප්‍රගතිය ලංකාවේ තියෙන කිසිම පාසලක් ලබාගෙන නැහැ. මගේ දැනුම හැටියට වර්ල්ඩ් එකෙත් මෙහෙම ස්කූල් එකක් නැහැ කියලා. ඒ සර් කියන කතාවේ ලයින්ස් ඇතුලේ තියෙන leadership qualities, commitment to achieve your target is very, very great. So he has started some things that people have never ever thought of in this country as educationists or as politicians. Like so his concept was right. The concept was to not only give education but to give love at school.
Dr. Harshalas and prominent members of the Old Boys Association of D.S. Senanayake College were in attendance.
The Tourism Homestay Twinning Project, a landmark initiative by SLTDA dedicated to elevating the standards of Sri Lankan homestays, concluded today. The project aimed to equip aspiring homestay owners with the skills and knowledge needed to thrive in the tourism market.
Sri Lanka's tourism received a vibrant boost with the successful completion of the Tourism Homestay Twinning Project, a unique initiative that paired aspiring homestay owners with the expertise of established star-class hotels. This collaborative effort was initiated by Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, supported by Asian Development Bank.
As we move along, homestays will play a major role. We are planning to take tourism to grassroots levels to ensure that there's community development at rural level and people will benefit through tourism. Homestays will be one area where they could benefit, especially the SMEs We can create opportunity for self-employment, and especially when you look at the gender balance, homestays could play a major role.
Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority launched this innovative program in September 2023, and over 3 months the program spanned across 6 regions: Galle, Negombo, Kandy, Dambulla, Jaffna and Pothuil. A total of 36 homestays embraced this opportunity, partnering with a nearby jet-wing hotel for dedicated mentorship and knowledge sharing.
I think this type of twinning program I think is very important, and not just in the homestay. I think we hope that we can support all segments so that Sri Lanka can become a top tourist destination. In relation to that, we are also supporting the diversification of the tourism product offerings of the country through new product development. Those kind of things would help different segments of tourist clientele. The tourism sector plays an instrumental role in the recovery and sustainable inclusive growth of the country. We will continue to support the sector with advisory services and lending assistances.
The program's impact extends beyond individual homestays, contributing significantly to the overall tourism industry.
Sri Lankan Defence Secretary General Kamal Gunaratne met senior officials of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Senior officials of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation met the Sri Lankan Defence Secretary General Kamal Gunaratne at the Defence Ministry in Kotte. The delegation, led by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's Deputy Director for Emergency Response, Global Development, Dr. Valerie Bemo, had a cordial discussion with the Defence Secretary where matters related to the launch of the Sustainable National Anticipatory Action through Preparedness Initiative in South Asia were discussed. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has long supported disaster risk reduction initiatives in the region, including several programs in Sri Lanka.
President's Counsel Upul Jayasuriya says that if the Attorney General does not take any action against those responsible for bankrupting Sri Lanka, the general public can go before courts and seek justice. He made this statement speaking at a conference held under the theme, "The People's Mandate for Justice."
The conference was organized by the Young Professionals Association. The signing of an online petition demanding for action to be taken against those responsible for bankrupting Sri Lanka was also launched in line with the event.
I would like to state that we will bring this corrupt group before the courts of Sri Lanka and hold them responsible for the economic crisis in the country through several fundamental rights petitions. Our constitution must be amended. Articles 10, 11, 12 and 13 of the constitution are regarding the fundamental rights of the people. All of those are civil and political rights, but there are also directive principles of state policy. Those are not fundamental rights. Through this decision, the Supreme Court has identified them as fundamental rights. However, we should further strengthen them. Therefore, not only civil and political rights, we need to also establish economic, social, religious and the right to life as fundamental rights by way of an amendment. After this judgment was delivered, I heard the former President and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa saying that proper facts were not considered in that judgment and that they will go back to the court to revisit this decision. There is only one Supreme Court in the country, and it is the highest court of the land. In the history of Sri Lanka, there has not been an instance where a decision of the Supreme Court had been overturned by the Supreme Court. Therefore, I don't know who advised him to make such a statement. In addition to that, the former president's son has said that only the facts that were presented during the case have been considered, and there were many facts that were not taken into consideration in the judgment, and that therefore they are not responsible. The Supreme Court issued notices to the Rajapaksas, not just once or twice. The President's Council represented Mahinda Rajapaksa and Basil Rajapaksa. They had presented over 1,000 documents to the Supreme Court. We had to study these. Not just that, but in the initial stages when leave was granted to proceed with the case, the Supreme Court also ordered the Monetary Board to submit details discussed related to the economic collapse and the letters and documents sent by the governors to persons of authority including the President, Minister or Cabinet. There were over 3,000 documents. It may have been to misguide us, but we studied all of it. If found guilty, they may face a minimum sentence of up to 1 year and a maximum of 20 years and be imposed a fine of 3 times the amount that they are found guilty of. That is why you are signing a petition addressed to the Attorney General. The Attorney General must reach that decision. That is the only way a case can be filed. But if he fails to do so, any individual can submit a personal complaint as a petition to file a case with the magistrates court.
පෞද්ගලික කෙනෙකුට පවා එවන් පැමිණිල්ලක් ඉදිරිපත් කළා එවන් පෞද්ගලික පෙත්සමක් පාගෙන
Sports Minister Harin Fernando has signed the Gazette to revoke the decision by former Sports Minister Roshan Ranasinghe that appointed an interim committee for Sri Lanka cricket. Minister Fernando made the announcement on X, formerly known as Twitter.
Former Sports Minister Roshan Ranasinghe issued a gazette on the 4th of November suspending the operations of Sri Lanka cricket and appointed an interim committee chaired by Arjuna Ranatunga to continue the operations of SLC. On Tuesday, Sports Minister Harin Fernando said that he signed a gazette to revoke the decision, appointing an interim committee for Sri Lanka cricket, aiming to lift our ICC suspension. He also said that he had also written to the ICC seeking their observations on the Auditor General's report on SLC and to the Attorney General's Department for future actions. The court had already issued an order temporarily suspending the operations of the Sri Lanka Cricket Interim Committee after taking into account an application filed by SLC, and the examination of the application is yet to conclude. Moreover, the suspension imposed by the ICC on SLC remains in effect.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.